a little different for me, but I'll give it a shot. I just want to thank Tim and everybody else who put on this event and asked me to come speak. It's an honor to be here and just get the opportunity to share with you guys. A little bit about the crossover group. I love this event. I thought it was a really good idea. I love the thought of mixing basketball together with our faith and our Christianity. So crossover group, basically what I do is I go around the camps. I had one here actually in Southeastern. I do individual training, small group training, with different teams and things like that. And I love it because I love basketball and I get to teach the kids about basketball, but I also love it even more because I get to share my faith with them. I get to tell them my testimony. I get to teach them about Jesus, hand out life books, and those things obviously are more important than basketball, but God's blessed me with the opportunity to use basketball to minister to kids. So it's a pretty awesome thing, and it's, it started off, I never knew it would become what it is, but God's blessed it. And this summer I've actually been able to speak to over 400 kids through it, so it's been a pretty cool thing. So I really like this event. I thought it was a great idea, and I'm glad to be a part of it. All right, so raise your hand. This is for everybody, not just the kids. How many people in here get stressed out? All right, I thought so. I wanted to make sure I wasn't the only one. So before I give this message here, I'm going to kind of give a backstory. So this week was kind of a stressful one for me in particular. We started school back, so I'm a teacher also. I teach at Troy Buchanan, and I also coach there. So, we're starting teaching. You want to start off the school year strong the first week, so that's a little stressful. I don't know if you guys met my wife or not. She's pregnant. We're due here in about a month, so we're expecting our third child here in about a month. And we moved into our house about a year ago. And when we moved in, I started working on the basement and had an unfinished basement. And when we found out we were having another child, the deadline was kind of when the child would come, and we would have to for our family to come stay, all that kind of stuff. So we're kind of in crunch time, obviously, with only a month left. Still have a lot to do, so that was a little stressful. We started open gyms, I'm still training, so there's a lot of stuff going on, right? So Sunday night, again, I want to show of hands. How many of you guys, you all said you get stressed out, how many of you get a little grumpy when you get stressed out? All right, just want to make sure I wasn't the only one again, all right? So, I was a little grumpy on Sunday night because I knew that I had a lot of stuff to do this week. So, I was grumpy, I probably wasn't in the best mood. Sorry, man. But Monday at school, I was at school Monday and I got a text from my wife. She's amazing. She always, she's really encouraging. She always knows what to say. She sent me this long text, and part of it was, she said to me, this should be a happy time, and Satan is trying to steal your joy from you. And I thought about that, and it kind of hit me on the sledgehammer. I was like, wow, you're right. So I was thinking about that, and one of the first things I thought of was a story about Peter, from the Bible. So if I could describe Peter in one word, I'd say that he's pretty bold. Every time he's mentioned in the Bible, he's really outspoken, sometimes to a fault. A lot of times I think that he maybe spoke or acted before he really thought about what he was going to do, but you got to respect Peter for his boldness. I think a lot of people, whenever they think of Peter, they think of the 3 times that he denied Jesus. That's probably what the first thought that comes to mind is, but there's a lot more to Peter than just that. So a couple things that stand out to me when I think about Peter. He walked on water. Whenever Jesus told the disciples that he was going to leave them and what was going to happen to him, he stood up and he was angry. He's like, no, I'm not going to let that happen to you because I'm willing to die for you, basically. So that was a bold thing. Whenever they come to arrest Jesus, he's the one that pulled out a sword and tried defending Jesus. Whenever Mary comes and tells the disciples that the tomb is empty, he's the first one to get there. He sprints there while all the other disciples walk there. After Jesus died and was resurrected, he was instrumental in starting the new church, right? Like, he was like really bold. He was out there telling people about Jesus, all those things. And when he was preaching about Jesus, he was persecuted. He got put into prison, all these things. They were threatening to kill him, and it didn't stop him. He healed people. He even raised a girl from the dead, and thousands of people were saved because of Peter's preaching. And his teaching. He actually ended up being crucified for his faith. So obviously Peter was a pretty awesome guy. Like, I love reading about Peter, I love learning about Peter, and he's pretty amazing. But the story that I want to talk about most right now is whenever he walked on water. Alright? I'm going to read it to you. It's in Matthew 14, 22 through 33. And just to give you a little bit of context, right before this is whenever Jesus did the miracle where he fed 5,000 people with 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. Alright, so that just happened. Alright, so I'm going to pick up in verse 22. Immediately after this, Jesus insisted that his disciples get back into the boat and cross to the other side of the lake, while he sent the people home. After sending them home, he went up into the hills by himself to pray. Night fell while he was there alone. Meanwhile, the disciples were in trouble far away from land, for a strong wind had risen, and they were fighting heavy waves. About 3 o'clock in the morning, Jesus came towards them, walking on water. When the disciples saw him walking on the water, they were terrified. In their fear, they cried out, "It's a ghost." But Jesus spoke to them at once. "Don't be afraid," he said. "Take courage, for I am here." Then Peter called to him, "Lord, if it's really you, tell me to come to you walking on the water." Again, Peter's showing his boldness there. "Yes, come," Jesus said. So Peter went over the side of the boat and walked on the water towards Jesus. But when he saw the strong wind and the waves all around him, he was terrified and began to sink. "Save me, Lord," he shouted. Jesus immediately reached out and grabbed him. "You have so little faith," Jesus said. "Why did you doubt me?" When they climbed back into the boat, the wind stopped. Then the disciples worshipped him. "You really are the Son of God," they exclaimed. So, I love this story. Again, it shows the boldness of Peter. He got out of the boat. It also shows the compassion of Jesus and lifting him back out, even though that he doubted him. It shows his love and compassion. It also shows his power because he's performing yet another great miracle. But I think that this applies a lot to our lives. Okay, we all said we get stressed out. We all said that we let it affect our mood. Okay, when Peter got out of the boat and he trusted Jesus and he was focused on Jesus, everything was fine. Like, it didn't matter how big the waves were, how strong the wind was. He was fine. He was like, and he stayed on top of the water. But as soon as he started to look around him and he realized how big the waves were and how strong the wind was, it says that he became terrified. Alright, so I think for us it's the same. Whenever we trust Jesus and we're focused on him, it doesn't really matter what life throws at us or what Satan throws at us to try to steal our joy away or make us stressed out. Right? Because we're trusting in Jesus and we're staying focused on him. It's whenever we start focusing on the things that are around us, those things that, again, the world puts in our way to distract us, that we start to sink, we start to get stressed out, we start to let our mood be affected by that. When Jesus talks about Satan a couple different times in John 10:10, Jesus says that Satan comes to steal, kill, and destroy. And in John 8:44, Jesus refers to Satan as the father of lies. Alright, so I think that we would all agree that Satan is our enemy. Right? That Satan's the enemy of God, Satan's our enemy. So he's going to do anything he can to try to steal our joy away. He comes to steal, kill, and destroy. And he's the father of lies, so he knows how to manipulate. Right? You look at Adam and Eve in the garden, and what did he do? He lied to them. Right? He tricked them into eating that. Whenever he tries to tempt Jesus, he does the same thing. He tries to manipulate the lie. So, what we need to do to obviously overcome that is what Peter did at the beginning, and focus on Jesus and trust in Jesus. Okay? Again, whenever we take our sights off that, we think about all the things that Satan throws at us to try to distract us, that's when we sink. Okay? And you don't really have to look far to see Satan try to do that. If you look at our culture right now, I have 2 young daughters and a son on the way, and I just think about the culture that they're going to be growing up in, and these kids are growing up in. Everywhere you look, you see on movies, TV, music, billboards, ads, anywhere you look, you see things that we don't want them to be seeing. Our culture's teaching kids to worship money, to worship cars, material possessions, all those types of things. You turn on the news and all you see is violence everywhere. Alright, so again, Satan's trying to scare us, Satan's trying to manipulate us. Okay? But one of the interesting things in this story, and one of the things that really stood out to me, is what Jesus said when he lifts Peter out of the water. When he lifts him out of the water, he says, "You have so little faith, why did you doubt me?" Alright, so it's the same. All these things, yeah, they're a big deal. The things that are going on in our culture, they're a big deal. Obviously, the violence is a big deal. They're all horrible things, and I'm not saying they're not. But, just like what Jesus said to Peter, he's saying the same thing to us. Like, why are you doubting me? Right? Like, Jesus is obviously greater than those things. I still believe that Jesus is in control of those things. And if we trust him, then we'll be able to get through them without becoming stressed out, without letting it affect us. Alright? Last thing here, my favorite verse in the entire Bible, John 16:33. Jesus says, "I've told you all these things so that you can have peace in me. Here on earth you will have many trials and sorrows, but take heart because I've overcome the world." So to me, that's just like the most encouraging verse in the entire Bible, because Jesus is saying that we should have peace. As Christians, we shouldn't get stressed out about these things. We shouldn't get so worked up about them. That we should have peace. And he tells us exactly where peace is found. He says it's found in me. So we should have peace in Jesus as Christians. Whenever we get so stressed out, we let that affect our mood. People see that. But we should set an example for Jesus. We should have peace in him. Alright, he even says here, on this earth you will have many trials and sorrows, but take heart, for I've overcome the world. He came in flesh. He's encountered the same things we do. He has temptations just like us. And he overcame them. So I think that's really encouraging that he overcame those things. He defeated death, and we should have peace because of what he did. So that's kind of my message. I'm a visual person, and I try to think of this story whenever I get in that situation where I start to lose focus on Jesus, and I start to lose focus on what's important. I can always tell because of my mood, because of how I treat my wife and my kids and people around me. So I think that it's important to stay focused on Jesus and not let the wind and the waves that are coming at us all the time distract us from that. So that's my message. I hope that it helps you guys. And I'm going to close with prayer, and then I'll have whoever's coming up next. All right. So bow your heads with me, please. Lord, we thank you for this day. Thank you for the opportunity to come here and share just what you taught in the Bible, Lord, and the story about you. I just pray that we'd stay focused on you, that we wouldn't focus on the wind and the waves that the world and that Satan try to throw at us, Lord. I pray that we just stay focused on you, and that we would have peace because we know that it's only found in you. We know that he who lives in me is greater than he who lives in the world. We know that you're greater than Satan, and that we should have peace through that. And we just love you so much. We pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you for the message, Darrell. We do appreciate you being here with us.
Thanks.